Welcome back. We have 18 presidential candidates in the run-up for the August 8th general election. Who will you vote for? And do you know all 18 presidential candidates? Well, that's what we're focusing on in this last leg of Weekend Express. Governance expert Brian Mutie, Bernard Wakoli, who is a Ford Kenya youth leader, and lawyer Nelson Harvey stay with us in studio for this conversation. Now, gentlemen, this week we had news that we will be having 3 presidential debates this year. 2 will be for the presidential contenders and 1 will be for the running mate. So that is fairly new in Kenya, this being the second presidential debate that we've had. But Brian, let's begin with you. We have 18 presidential candidates. Where do we begin in choosing which one of the 18 to put in the debate, or do we go with all of them?
That's a crowd, if you ask me, Michelle. And how to manage that is the biggest question. Whether when we introduce this kind of number of presidential candidates debating, on one platform is doable, and whether it will lead to the building of a presidential debate. To me, if you ask me, I'll tell you this will water down the whole essence of a presidential debate. Borrowing from traditionally from developed democracies, and they pick, for instance, Americans. They just narrowed the debate between the 2 protagonists, that's the Republicans and Democrats. We have never been, treated to the others, and that's why the debate, gathers or gains that kind of mileage across the world, with over 6 billion, if I'm not wrong, trying to glue their eyes on the screens to ensure that they catch a glimpse of what transpires between them. And this is something that Kenyans are still borrowing from the developed world, in the sense that it's still new to us. We are starting from a situation where we are still borrowing a concept that we are yet to understand how to manage it. If I were Wachira Waruru and the company, I would have consulted wide and see how Americans are able to sieve how they settle down on the 2. What are the parameters? What are the guiding principles that would ensure that they lock out the 16, so to speak, and just remain with the 2? But again, for Kenyan context, I think if I say we only allow the 2, it will also lock out a good number of potential, supporters of the 16, in the sense that while we want to dismiss them as just others, they still also draws that kind of support across the country. Right. And some people will be willing to see how Abu Dida is going to fare, how Kuro Aukot is going to also articulate issues, and also somebody like Norman Nyaga, is it Joseph Nyaga is also going to, and also Omar Nazlin, so to speak, and others. So it will be unfair to also lock them out completely. If we can find a platform on how we can spread this kind of debate in terms of having a matchup with Raila and Uhuru as the 2 key fellas, and also ensuring that we sieve the 16 to ensure that we can run a sort of media poll to see how we can get popular candidates in that pecking order. And then the first 4 from the 16 can have a sort of a matchup. Right. And that will be able to give at least some sort of diverse overview of what they can bring on the table.
Wakoli, your thoughts? Should we have all 18? Should we just have the 2 main contenders? Because even just drawing lessons from the U.S. general election, the electorate in the U.S. felt like they had a choice. Their choice was to choose the lesser of the 2 evils. They didn't really have the perfect choice, so to speak. So when we have just the 2 contenders, the 2 top contenders, Raila and Uhuru, then aren't we locking out that alternative decision that Kenyans might be looking for, that alternative voice and that alternative narrative?
Michelle, I strongly support the culture of debate. Is a good way of having these people actually share their vision, share their policies, share their manifestos to the larger population. But as I said in the beginning, the Kenyan politics has not matured enough to the level that people will make up their mind depending on the debates. Kenya, we suffer from what we call personality syndrome. Most Kenyans have made up their mind. They know, I'm going to vote for Uhuru. So the debate will actually sway very few undecided voters. But majority of the voters have already decided they know, because of that person we want to protect. It's our time to eat. We need to protect what we eat. Others are saying we also need to go in and eat. So it's that kind of competition. When you look at the last debate that was held before the 2013 elections, there were a number of candidates, almost 7, who lined up for debate. And from that debate, most people have argued that that Uhuru managed to convince the undecided voters based on the fact that he played, he was like a victim of circumstances, because most contenders, most president candidates were really attacking him of the past, of what the father has done, your father grabbed. And Uhuru said, no, it was not me, that was him. So he managed to convince, and he created a face of a very innocent person. And most people have argued that it gave him some votes. But I really don't think it did so, because people voted according to how they have been mobilized.
Yeah.
At that time, we had issues of ICC, we had issues of so many things that were playing. But this time round, it might be neutral. There will be no clarion on, give us votes because we are this and this, So we can give them opportunity to debate, but at the same time, media need to come up with a strategy on how we can engage all of them in a debate, but separate the 18, because it's so huge crowd, and moderating it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, and also very confusing. I mean, for them to listen to a debate among 18 people. But what colleague brings in an important point, Harvey, that our politics traditionally is personality-based and not issue-based. So even if you had all 18 candidates in one debate, is it likely to really sway the electorate? Or even if we had the 2 top contenders, is that really going to sway the electorate on who they're going to vote for?
Now, the contest for the seat of President of Kenya is a very serious enterprise. It's not a light matter. The most unfortunate bit is that many of the people who will be voting are not seriously intrigued in the enterprise. They are very simplistic in thought. So this issue must be reduced to their basic level without any complexities, as my colleagues may want to bring onto the table. And this is how I look at it. This is a 2-horse race. Now, we do not allow horses to race with rabbits or rats. They'll be trampled upon. So I think the media houses need to do the correct thing. Conduct a mini nomination.
A pollster.
Yeah, not even a pollster, just a nomination for these candidates. Let Uhuru and Raila go to the podium and tell us what is the agenda. Because unless the sun changes its course, there will only be one president out of those 2. It's either Raila or Uhuru. Now, to that extent, therefore, they need to be given sufficient time to articulate their issues so that we're able to know what is the agenda of President Uhuru Kenyatta, what is the agenda of Honorable Raila Odinga. Now, the other individual, sorry to say, I mean, it's like putting Professor Nyang' Nyong to debate with Senator Sonko. It's an exercise in intellectual futility. It should not be permissible at all. Now, the likes of Diba, or whatever his name is, I think they're very good for entertainment. They're these very entertaining talk shows on radio stations, perhaps like mine and Kingangi in the morning. They should be permitted to make calls there in the morning, let them have the entertainment. But this is a serious enterprise. We need to see the scorecard of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He needs to explain to Kenyans what are these achievements that he set forth to implement in 2013 and how far he has progressed. And this will provide him with the fora to articulate his issues. And then on the other side, we need to hear Raila. Let him point out the mistakes, if any, of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Let him indicate, despite his many years in administration, what he's able to do within this 5-year contract period that he wants to be given. I think it's only then that you as the media houses will give us the opportunity to partake of this serious enterprise and have the full benefit of the result that will come out of it.
All right. We don't have much time, but let's now delve into the fact that out of these 18 presidential candidates, 9 of them, that is half the number, are going at it independently. But as we speak, we also have 4,950 independent candidates, or at least politicians looking to run at it independently. Now, this number is likely to go down when IEBC goes through their papers in about 2 weeks or so. But many of them are also governorship aspirants. So the question is, because historically, Parliament seems to make better legislation when the president is stripped of some of his powers, so to speak. But then how would an independent president or an independent governor govern in terms of having the legislative majority to push his agenda through when he does not have a team? Brian?
I think, first of all, that's unthinkable. Having a governor who is independent, I do not think this is going to happen, first of all. But if the worst happens, that we have some sort of candidates who are going to make it in the House. For instance, the MCAs, they still want to incline towards one of their sides, and they will be the most sought after, fellas in the houses, whether in county level, national level, and so forth and so forth. The reason why I'm saying so is because any existing political formation in the House would want to have its numbers in their favor. And this will be very essential when it comes to passing of laws and appeals in the House. So these guys will be, lying low just to wait whichever opportunity comes in terms of being compromised. And that offers that opportunity for compromise. They'll be actually the avenue that will be seeking self-aggrandizement in form of being coerced every time that key bills are being passed. Like, look here, guys, I'm here, I can work in any side. It depends on who gives me what. And therefore, that's being an issue. They are also likely to form, if they are going to make it in big numbers, to form a sort of association within the houses, where they will also be lying low to see whichever side approaches them in terms of times of debate. But again, this being a new issue, because in 2013 we only had 200 candidates, and I think I can only remember one member of parliament, Musimba of Kibwezi, who made it as an independent candidate. I do not think we have and Mount Elgon. So the number is really insignificant. But this time round, I think with the candidature platform of 4,000 and above, we're likely to see the number going up very high. And this is going to tilt the scales in terms of how voting in the houses is going to be conducted.
All right, Wakoli, very briefly, because we're out of time, your thoughts on the independent candidate fever?
Okay, thank you, Michelle, again. When you look at the 2010 Constitution, the spirit of this Constitution was to make political parties as institutions of governance. But the huge number of independent candidates that we are witnessing was as a result of shambolic nominations, party primaries, where the winner is not given the certificate and the certificate is given to the loser, even number 3, depending on who knows who within the party.
Right.
Politics is about allocation of resources. It determines who gets what, when, and how. Basically. So everybody wants to get this power to allocate resources. And when you look at the nature of independent candidates, it's a new scenario that we are witnessing. But I can tell you there are so many people that are going to win. But they are going to win based on whom they support as a presidential candidate. I've seen posters where an independent candidate is putting up a poster, but on the side is putting Raila or Uhuru, meaning that I'm independent, yes, but I belong to... And Uhuru is a political party leader. Raila is a party leader of a party.
So questions of how independent are these independent candidates? Javi, very briefly, your final comments.
Sure.
The high number of independent candidates is as a result of a failed multi-party system. But I do not think they'll have a great significance. Come, let's say, December this year, you will not hear of these independent candidates. Many of them, of course, will have been elected. And then as soon as they get into power, they will affiliate themselves into their original formations. They will go back to NASA, they'll go back to Jubilee. And the reason is simple, because the manner in which the Constitution is set up, you cannot function unless the system is pegged along party affiliation.
All right, so the independency then becomes another special purpose vehicle just to get there. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for this conversation. Lawyer Nelson Havi, Ford Kenya youth leader Bernard Wakoli, and governance expert Brian Mutie. Many thanks for joining us on Weekend Express, and thank you at home for watching as well. And just a recap of our top story this morning, where 19 people died this morning on the Nakuru-Nairobi highway after a Busia-bound bus collided with a trailer. The accident occurred at the Mberuk area. Rift Valley Traffic Enforcement Officer Zero Arome led rescue operations immediately after the accident occurred at 3 a.m. A survivor said the 52-seater bus christened Flashlink was carrying more than its capacity. The bus belongs to Superhighway Sacco and plies the Githurai 45 route. Arome said the police officers were still counting the bodies as some were trapped in the mangled wreck. Arome said the injured were rushed to the St. Mary's Hospital, adding that they had information that the bus driver survived and escaped immediately after the accident. Nakuru County Police Commander Hassan Barua confirmed 18 people died on the spot. We'll continue to bring you more information on that breaking news story right here on KTN News, where we give you the whole story. Many thanks for watching Weekend Express. My name is Michelle Ngele. Good morning.